Season 8 to Game of Thrones was an extremely divisive ending to a beloved franchise. Some people thought it was a great way to wrap up character stories, while others thought it was rushed and very disappointing. At this point, it feels like it's been forever since we got the last Song of Ice and Fire book, but of course, we've been patiently waiting for the next novel to release to see what would be different from the show, and George R.R. Martin decided in his latest Not a Blog post to come out and say, my ending will be very different from the show's ending, not sounding very happy with HBO. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So, this is his Not a Blog website post. It says a winter garden. I have done a lot of interviews over the years, more than I ever can possibly keep track of. Inevitably, a lot of them touch on the same subjects. One of the things I have been asked about most is my writing process. If you have seen any of those interviews, you have probably heard me talking about the two types of writers, the architects and the gardeners. I have given the same spiel numerous times. Here's one of the most thorough explanations. Now, I'm not going to play this video at all, but it is part of this post. It says, another question I get a lot, especially since the end of Game of Thrones on HBO, is whether A Song of Ice and Fire will end the same way. Now, ever since this series ended, people have been asking the question, what is next for this franchise? Is his book going to come out next? Are we going to get one of the prequel or sequel series next? At this point, we have several prequel series greenlit. House of the Dragon is coming out in just a couple of months. And we're also hearing about sequel talk now, okay? We're getting the Jon Snow sequel series. Kit Harington's coming back. Apparently, George is going to be part of it in some way, shape, or form. And we still do not have Winds of Winter. I feel like at this point, we should give up on any hope that we had for it. I don't want to, obviously. These books have been fantastic so far. I want to see the next one. I'm eager to see what he's going to do. But regardless, the way that this show ended was very controversial, and a lot of people didn't like the last few seasons of it. So we've been waiting to see what he would do. What would his direction be? He talks about all of the different things that have happened in history that did inspire moments in Game of Thrones, but he says that brings me to Winds of Winter. Most of you know by now that I do not like to give detailed updates on Winds. I am working on it, I have been working on it, I will continue to work on it. I love nothing more than to surprise my readers with twists and turns they did not see coming, and I risk losing those moments if I go into too much detail. Spoilers, you know, even saying that I am working on a Tyrion chapter, as I did last week, gives away the fact that Tyrion is not dead. Reading sample chapters that cons are posting about them online, which I did for years, gives even more away. I actually quite enjoyed doing that until the day came that I realized I had read and or posted the first couple of 100 pages of Winds, or thereabouts. If I had kept on with the readings, half the book might be out by now. He says, I have been at work in my winter garden. Things are growing and changing, as does happen with us gardeners. I write, I rewrite, I restructure, I rip everything apart and rewrite again. What I have noticed more and more of late, however, is my gardening is taking me further and further away from the television series. Yes, some of the things you saw on HBO and Game of Thrones you will also see in the Winds of Winter, though maybe not in quite the same ways. I think what he's talking about are probably the details with some of the larger characters. Daenerys, maybe at the end she does end up dying. It's in a very different way, though. Maybe she's in a very different place. Maybe she doesn't actually follow her crazy father's footsteps and doesn't actually burn King's Landing, to the ground. Maybe we do see the North go independent again. Maybe we do see a Stark ruling the North. Who knows what he's going to do? But I do genuinely hope that he does go in a different direction. I hope that he's not just saying this now to make people happy and he doesn't end up releasing almost the same product. I do hope that he actually changes the story and changes the ending. It says, and really when you think about it, it was inevitable. The novels are much bigger and much more complex than the series. He brings up how he has viewpoint characters in the books, never even seen on the show. He says, I have legions of secondary characters, not POVs, but nonetheless important to the plot, like Lady Stoneheart, Penny. I mean, these are all characters I was really excited to see in the show that we didn't end up getting. My number one character that I was very disappointed we didn't see was Lady Stoneheart. I was so sad that they dropped the Lady Stoneheart story. That would have been so amazing in the show, but they didn't end up going with it. It says Yara Greyjoy is not Asha Greyjoy, and HBO's Euron Greyjoy is way, way, way different from mine. Quaithe still has a part to play, and so does Rickon Stark and poor Gene Poole, and well, the list is long. Oh, and there will be new characters as well. Not new viewpoints, I promise you that, but with all these journeys and battles and scheming to come, inevitably our major players will be encountering new people in the lands far and near. And then he wraps up with saying, one thing I can say in general enough terms is that I will not be spoiling anything. Not all of the characters who survived until the end of Game of Thrones will survive until the end of A Song of Ice and Fire, and not all the characters who died on Game of Thrones will die in A Song of Ice and Fire. That's basically all that he says. So he's saying that it's not going to be the same product. And I do hope that it's not going to be the same product. But when the last season came out, he initially said that he wouldn't have gone in the direction the writers Dumb and Dumber, David Benioff, and D.B. Weiss went in. Then it shifted a bit after he saw all the backlash saying it wasn't too bad, as if he wanted people to watch it and like it simply because he backed it. And I definitely think that it made some people change their minds on it, because obviously if the creator likes it, they'll accept it. But as time has gone on, we have seen things like this happen. He is trying to take a step away from the HBO series, and he's saying, well, while I respect what they did and I liked a lot of what they did, it went in a very different direction than what I would have created and what I am creating for the future. Let's just look at what he said a couple of years ago. Due to his love of history, Martin dislikes one key scene from the Game of Thrones TV show. In an excerpt from his upcoming book, Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon, he reveals that he hated how King Robert Baratheon died in the show. He did not like that. He thought it was a terrible way for him to go out, and this was one of the major things that he spoke on. He also hated how Stannis died, I believe, as well. He kind of said he didn't like all of the scenes leading up to it, and he just didn't like the details in it. But going to something like Rotten Tomatoes, clearly the show started off very strong. People absolutely loved it. 90 and 96%. I mean, I loved Game of Thrones the first couple of seasons, probably until season 5 is when I was absolutely in love with the show. And then we got season 6 and it was okay, but clearly it was headed in a direction I wasn't a fan of. And then season 7 came out, scores started dropping, and 82%. And then we get to season 8, which was extremely controversial, and it was the most hated season of the show. Obviously, the writers wanted to move on. They wanted to get this show done so that they could move to other projects, and they rushed it, even though George R. R. Martin said, I could write a couple more seasons. I could probably write 5 more seasons if they needed me to. I could give them general ideas, but they decided, no, we're going to end it at season 8, and this was the final season. A 55% critic and a 30% audience, and that's how I feel. I feel like it was a genuine 30%. There were moments that were not bad, and 95% of it was absolutely trash. I would love to forget that it ever existed. We will not know how he is going to end A Song of Ice and Fire until the next book's release. I do hope we get one in the next couple of years. That would be awesome. I really want to see Winds of Winter finally, but I hope that he's not just saying this now to start distancing himself. only to end up circling back and creating what the show created. I hope that he does go in his own direction. He writes what he wants to write and what he maybe originally envisioned, and he doesn't look at the show and go, I'm just going to copy it because I'm lazy at this point, but only time will tell. That's all that I really had to discuss in this video, though. If you enjoyed, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.